Thank you, Mr. President. Before I begin, I want to express Israel's relief in seeing Idan Alexander return home after almost 600 days of Hamas captivity. We were honored to welcome his parents, Adi and Yael, to the United Nations just a few months ago. Their strengths moved us all. We thank the United States for its role in securing Idan's release. We also reaffirm that Israel will not rest until every last one of the 58 remaining hostages is brought home. The reports emerging from Idan's time in captivity are deeply disturbing. Idan was subjected to constant torture, tied in a cage by his hands and feet, and starved. This is the reality of Hamas's treatment of hostages. This is why we must bring them all back. I listened carefully to all of your statements today. But when I saw the video of Idan's mother embracing him after almost 600 days apart, I was reminded what this is really about. Mothers reuniting with their children. That is what we are fighting for. Mr. President, less than 2 months ago, a man stood before this council. His name was Eli Sharabi, frail, traumatized, and still mourning the murder of his wife and 2 daughters and brother by Hamas terrorists. He somehow found the strength to testify about his experience as a hostage in the hands of Hamas. He spoke for truth and for justice. In that testimony, I want to remind you, he revealed what we have been saying for years and what many in this room have ignored. Hamas steals humanitarian aid. He told you that he had seen with his own eyes UN aid packages carried into Hamas tunnels. He watched as the terrorists ate like kings while he and his fellow hostages were left to starve. Let that image sink in. The aid you sent, the aid your taxpayers funded, the aid you believed would help civilians, the aid marked by UN and UNRWA emblems, it was used to feed terrorists to massacred women and children. Israel will not allow that to continue. We will not allow the old broken system to remain in place. We will not accept a humanitarian mechanism that props up the terror organization that butchered our people. We will not sit idly by as food, fuel, and funds meant for civilians are funneled into the Hamas terror machine. We will never allow our morality to be weaponized against us again. We appreciate the efforts to build a new mechanism, one grounded in accountability, one that ensures aid reaches civilians, not terrorists. Simply put, we will not allow the mistakes of the past to repeat themselves. However, I have been here for many years in this building. It was shocking to see that even before the proposal had been finalized or made public, the UN and the Secretary General had already dismissed it. How many meetings we had about this proposal? The Secretary General said he refused to engage in, and I quote, any scheme, that's how he called it, that in his view does not meet the principles of, and I quote, impartiality, humanity, independence, and neutrality. The irony is unbelievable, as the previous mechanism made a mockery of every one of those principles. That is not diplomacy. That is not neutrality. That is sabotage disguised as principle. It is outrageous that the UN, an organization built upon global cooperation and dialogue, refuses to engage with states offering real solutions. Rather than fix our broken system, senior UN officials, including Secretary General Guterres, are refusing to admit the system has failed. We can only reach one conclusion. The UN wants to preserve a humanitarian framework that serves Hamas, a system that feeds terrorists while civilians and hostages starve, a system that failed the people of Gaza and failed the hostages, all because of optics and politics. To Secretary General Guterres, I say this: the aid that ended up in Hamas's hands did not bring hope. It did not bring progress. It brought death. That path leads nowhere. Mr. Guterres, you are invited to return to the table. But if you do come with open eyes and open ears, something can be achieved. Hamas was allowed to seize aid and take control over the population of Gaza. You saw the consequences of that mistake on October 7th. It cannot be unseen. The old system fed terrorists while civilians suffered and Israelis were burned alive. That cannot and that will not be repeated. Colleagues, every day we hear baseless and outrageous accusations directed at Israel, that we are committing war crimes, that we are starving civilians, that we are deliberately obstructing aid. But here is a test. If the officials making these accusations truly believed them, they would be doing everything in their power to make a change, to contribute. They would be engaging in constructive dialogue to ensure aid gets to civilians, not to terrorists. Instead, they have chosen slander over solutions. We have, as you all know, facilitated in the past the entry of over 1.7 million metric tons of humanitarian assistance into Gaza. This is food, water, medicine, fuel, shelter equipment. We have worked with international partners to get aid to those in need. Despite all of this, the misinformation continues. Just yesterday, the IPC once again released a report claiming that Gaza is, and I quote, facing famine. That's a new terminology. We have heard that before. The IPC has made the same claim multiple times throughout this conflict in the last 18 months. Every time it has proven to be completely false. Even the IPC's own analysis confirms there is no famine in Gaza, but they continue to use exaggerated language based purely on flawed assumptions and scenarios that have not happened. The IPC does not collect its own data. It relies only on UN sources that reflected only 1/3 of the actual aid that entered Gaza during the ceasefire. That is deliberate manipulation. The IPC ignored the massive volumes of food and supplies that entered Gaza during the pause in fighting. They ignored our detailed assessments and our warnings of their failures. But most of all, they refused to respond to the evidence we presented because it just didn't fit the narrative. The reality is that Hamas has made the previous aid system impossible. Not only do they steal the aid, loot the convoys, and execute their own people, but I remind the Council that Hamas continues to hold 58 innocent hostages as we speak. They don't receive aid. So when the UN insists on returning to the old framework, it is not choosing neutrality, it is choosing denial. We are grateful to the United States for its leadership in this new effort. We welcome the constructive engagement of other member states and NGOs who have recognized the need for reform. To those who denounce us, I say this: if you demand that Israel facilitate aid while ignoring how that aid has been used by terrorists, then you are not defending international law, you are destroying it. direct your outrage and frustration at the terrorist organization that steals the aid you pay for. Esteemed Council members, there are hostages still held underground. We will defend our people. We will bring our hostages home, and we will not contribute to any mechanism that enables the enemy who brought war to our doorstep on October 7th. To the Secretary General, to the UN leadership, and to every member state at this table, you are invited to help build something better, to let go of the broken past and embrace a more accountable, more secure future for all. Thank you, Mr. President.